I've got a confession to make.
I need to get this off my chest. As a business owner, we all make mistakes.
I've got to confess.
And we are doing it all again. Mr. Kim Barrett, thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing, dude?
I am doing spectacularly, Mr. Charley. Sir, how are you doing?
I'm really well. Now, I suppose the obvious thing that I'm alluding to for anyone that's on the video at the moment is the background of your video is very different than the normal recording environment. So I dare say you are somewhere special in the world. Where are you at the moment and what are you doing?
Yes, I am currently in just outside that window. If it wasn't so bright, you would see the Rocky Mountains. I'm in Banff, which is in Alberta, in Canada. Over there, enjoying. I'm going to speak at a social media camp in a week or so. So just taking in the scenery, enjoying the sights, and yeah, doing a little bit of hustle in the evenings like we are right now. So it's good. But yeah, beautiful place.
Well, this is actually the earliest we've ever recorded a podcast episode. And I was just glancing at the clock. And I'm like, I can't believe it. Finally, a morning episode to find my groove. But how awesome is that with your business, you get to do this type of travel and see these types of events? I mean, I've seen some of the photos come through your social feeds and whatnot, and it looks spectacular. So are you all prepped to present at this event? What are you going to be talking about there?
Well, it's going to be interesting, right? Because I'm talking about bots. And at the moment, they're disallowed from connection on Facebook. So I could do this whole presentation and go, look, this is really cool, but you can't do this right now. So just store this in the back of your mind for a couple of weeks until you get approval. So I'm actually very much crossing my fingers that Facebook reapproves them in the next 5 days so that when I do my presentation, it's actually relevant and implementable straight away for people.
Well, like for those of you that don't know, the Facebook Analytica stuff and the GPRW, and I think it's called, and all these things in the world at the moment are creating an interesting environment in social media and what we can do with bots. I mean, my perspective is it's just a matter of time before they come back, not if. But how do you feel about it? Do you feel the same?
I feel like they're definitely going to come back. I feel like they're going to be a couple of changes. To be honest, I think it's going to be a lot of the way that we're already doing them, which is cool for us. So it won't really be a change of anything. It'll just be operating as usual. But yeah, I really want them to come back sooner rather than later because we've got tons of people waiting to connect them. And all the people that didn't when I told them to, I'm kind of like not rubbing it in, but I'm like, hey, guys, remember when I told you to do this thing? Yeah, you should have done it.
So is this the point where I should say thank you? Because you got out, you said to do it. We did ours. So we have these Facebook bots, which I love. I think they're an awesome business tool and they're only going to get bigger. But I'd be a bit dirty if I didn't have one right now. A bit of FOMO going on. I dare say when it comes back, right? They'll explode.
Exactly. We've got it for Confession of a Business Owner, the association. You've got them for all the stuff that you're doing. So it's good to be ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. And I think we'll even bring that into its own episode because I'd love to do a deep dive on bots with you and explain them in more depth to our audience. But we're here for something very different today. There's been a few things happening that we've both seen and we thought we should bring into discussion, which is your business model broken? So I'm interested to hear your perspective here, Kim, but something I'm seeing more and more is business owners who are being loyal to a business model that isn't serving them and is only going to get worse as the business landscapes change. And do you see the same thing?
Yeah, and I think it's very specific key words there that you're using, right? Like the business, and we're not saying that people's businesses are broken, but it's the model in which they use and in which they provide their products and services, which a lot of the time is. And I think that's the big difference that, people kind of feel like you're telling them that their child is ugly. And it's like, well, look, they're only ugly on the outside, and we can fix that with cosmetic surgery. On the inside, they're pretty.
Look, I love the analogy there, though there is some ugly kids out there that need to know, and there's some ugly businesses out there that need to know and start changing this stuff up. I'm going to put it out there that I feel that the change of pace in business is increasing and not decreasing. So being aware of this stuff is actually more important now than ever. Like I think you used to be able to get away with a lot more than you can these days.
Yeah, I think it was. Well, there's like when you look at the likes of social media and things like that, where everything is more transparent, moves faster, like everything is accelerated, even, in the realms of finances. And you look at like cryptocurrencies and things like that, where it would take, 7 years for things to happen, can happen in 7 months. So there's like a big change in things happening so much faster, I think, and it's just the world that we live in. Everything is accelerated.
Absolutely. So in this episode, we want to do a bit of a deep dive on a few things about, what industries we think are broken, what we would do if we were in these industries possibly, and then like, how do you identify if your own business model is broken? But before we get to that, I want to do a few of the stories, and like, I want to share one of mine first, and then we'll come back to one of yours. But when I started in the agency world, so having a digital marketing agency, what was very, very interesting is that we used to do everything, right? So we used to do SEO services, we used to do website services like build websites. And then on the back of that, on the other side, we were also doing advertising, email campaigns, the works. And at the time, that was very, very achievable as an agency. And the reason was these fields and things were easy. So to do SEO back then was just like if you had a white page, is all you would do is write the keyword you wanted to rank for in that business over and over again on the right page. So if it was a plumber in Melbourne, we would get a white page and just write plumber Melbourne over and over thousands of times on the page. And that's how you got ranked. That's what SEO was in a sense. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's, all the rest of things, but the internet was a wild, wild place. But if you compare that to like the guys I know who are doing SEO now, like I can't even understand the words they're saying. Like it's a completely different language and field. That field has absolutely exploded. Now we felt that way back then and was like, well, we can't do this anymore. We don't have the resources and our business model is going to suffer if we don't change. And that's why we made the decision to go strictly into PPC advertising or Google AdWords and Facebook advertising. Now that was without doubt one of the best decisions we made because we became specialists in that field and ahead of everyone that didn't make that change. But if I had failed to recognize that industry change and how it was all going, I would have ended up in a pretty tough spot because I wouldn't have been able to afford the talent or bring in the resources to deliver in my business. And we would have kind of ended up like this, almost like average Joe, not good at anything, but okay at everything type of agency. And the business really would have suffered. But lucky, as I said, the specialist model and doing one in that well in one field really, really helped us. So that's my little kind of story of like how I survived a change in business and recognizing it. Do you have one to share, Kim?
Well, I think there's probably one more that I've noticed, and hopefully this is not stealing any thunder or glory. But it's like I remember back in high school and university when we studied economics, and they were talking about global trade and things like that, and it always kind of it just made logical sense to me when they talked about that. And one of the biggest things that I see that people kind of miss out on, and I'll give a cheeky plug here, but for example, outsourcing angels, is that because all the global trades and barriers are so much lower than they used to be, especially online for online services, right? There's literally no barrier to entry for trade between any country. So you can leverage and pay people really well in a different country that is still 10 times cheaper than it is in your country. And I think that for like day-to-day tasks, for things that don't actually have a dramatic impact, are not like a growth lever in your business, most people, and I think I took too long to do this. I noticed a lot of businesses are doing it, is that they don't leverage that global opportunity as much as they should, which could then dramatically lower their costs, which means that they can compete better with anyone else because they're leveraging it and then specializing and using their talents, as you said, as that second tier, if you will. Whereas I think a lot of people get stuck and it's like, well, I have to do it this way. There's no other. I have to hire someone in Australia for $40 an hour to do the filing, or I have to bring someone in and pay them 45 grand a year out of university as an intern. Whereas instead of looking outside of that and going, cool, what are the opportunities, and go, yes, still bring that person in, but why not train them, like immediately start them training on higher level tasks and opportunities for the business, as opposed to getting them to do filing, answer the phones and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And you did steal my thunder. That was absolutely one of the points I was trying to make, is just that's one of the changes that's happened in the world. It is amazing what you can get done on the internet these days. It really, really is. And far too few businesses are leveraging that to what could be. So they're literally paying people a much higher rate to do admin tasks than could be sent offshore. And the tools of the internet are only improving and getting better. Internet connections are getting better in everywhere but Australia. But that is one of the big macro changes in the world where if you're not taking advantage of it, you're probably contributing to some form of a broken business model yourself. So huge point there. Huge point there, Kim.
And I completely forgot you did tell me before that was one of your points, but I didn't realize how you were going to be making it. So, my bad there. I'll throw my hand up. If Charley doesn't say anything the rest of the episode, my fault. Completely slipped my mind. I just free flow, and Charley has all his points, and he's like, "Kim, bastard, stole my point."
So, before each episode, we decide what topic we're going to talk about, and I'll always tell Kim my points. I'll say, "Look, these are the things I want to make sure I mention in this episode." And I always tell him that so he doesn't, impede, or we don't say the same thing twice to make these episodes super valuable. But it appears my list is up for grabs these days. All good. I thought you should have told me better.
I just wish you had told me more about what you were going to say so I would have known, but I'll take responsibility for that one.
All good, dude. All good. As long as the point get made and people get to get value from looking at it right now. And I go, well, it's a really good point on that one. So I'll lead into the next one and I'll tell some more little stories and things like that because I think stories are a great way to do it. So to your point earlier in the episode about, the baby might be ugly, but some cosmetic surgery can fix her up. So the business might be a little bit ugly, but cosmetics could fix that up. We start to think of companies like the Yellow Pages. And I'll give you a really good example here have businesses stopped searching for other businesses to do work with, or is anyone not looking for that plumber down the road or the electrician or the painter or any of those things or the lawyers? They definitely have, but they failed to adapt into what the environment wanted. So advertising as a whole has existed. It's just evolved. And so when we look at that, it's I think what every business owner really needs to do is understand how things are evolving and then how to take advantage of where those evolvements are coming from. So you've already mentioned one is that, the power of virtual stuff. So taking advantage of the world opportunity. Is there somewhere else in the world where you can take advantage of tools and resources and things that are developing in your business so you're not paying so much more to deliver your product and service? I think is a huge one. The second one is the behaviors. So I think it's really interesting, and this is another one in advertising, is that we can see that TV is a dying art and that, online is becoming bigger and bigger and more powerful and all the rest. It's well, if you're still doing TV advertising, you're kind of being loyal to a broken business model. It's time to start transitioning that through into these other services.
100%. And now let me give you the flip side. It's kind of combining those last 2 points that you just made as well. And I know how I kind of deal with it, but one of the things I see is with that, the change and everyone's going, cool, we need to be where people are, which may be social media, online, and we're going to start, let's just say they start moving their budgets to there. They realize they've got a broken model in that area and make the shift. How do you deal with every man and his dog, or every man who gets a packet of Fruit Loops now is a ads manager, a Facebook manager, an Instagram growth expert, a SEO person? How do you look at combating that, being that I see that is something that is very quickly breaking at the moment because there's a post in a very popular group and it's wanted Facebook ad beast, and there's 10 million comments of every single person being yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll put it out there as a business owner, you've got to be willing to evolve and keep moving. The objective isn't to stay still. So I'll use you as the example here, Kim, is that if you just stay in Facebook ads for your business career, it's likely that eventually your business model will be broken. It's already heading that way, no offense. Is you can look at when we got into it, when you first got into Facebook ads, there was probably much less competition. It was much easier to do. It was much easier to be good in comparison level. Where now it's the bar's lifted, the talent of people coming through is phenomenal and you're definitely in that group, but there's also a lot more of that. There's also a lot more people getting out there in that space. So you can see that this business model is already in that path of becoming saturated. The supply and demand isn't there. The price is falling through the floor of what people can pay for a quality service. And for anyone listening, there's some hints in how to recognize if your business model is becoming broken, is very, very much the commoditization of what you do. But even in the start of this episode, you've recognized that maybe subconsciously, and you can see that you are starting to do things like bots. You guys are adding things into this that are moving in that next direction of evolvement. And no one can deny it. Bots are the future of where this industry is headed, but there's so few doing it well. So that's where I see, and I'm curious if that was subconscious or if it was conscious of you guys looking at how we keep evolving and keep moving.
Well, definitely conscious because I never want to be put in the barrel, if you will, of just a Facebook ads person or a Facebook ads company, I should say, for your social voice. That's never been our intention. Hence, why we're not called like uh, Barrett Facebook ad company or something like that, right? Like the name has definitely lead us open to broader pastures, and that's purposely done because, especially with the group of people that we hang around, we hear about things happening so fast. Like we were at the dinner the other night and hearing about this autumn. I don't know if I think you would have been in the convo. I'm not sure if you were listening or speaking to one of the other guys there, but around the automation processes that goes in and runs like in like an hour, like a million, like 100,000 split test variations of copy, image, thing, and finds the winner, and then goes and puts all the money into that, right? Which is a lot of the time, that's like what most people that are coming through as Facebook ads people, that's what they're doing. That's like their bread and butter, doing it, testing it, and checking it for clients. There's already a process that can do what would take a person a week to do in like 5 minutes, right? And this is an automation that's coming in. The one thing that's always going to be needed, I think, and can't really be learned by that is the strategy, is the actual idea before that goes in, which I think a lot of the people that are Facebook ad managers at the moment don't do. They go, cool, tell me what you want. Like, you want to run ads? Great. Like, what are the ads? Where's the page? Do it. As opposed to actually thinking about it strategically and going, cool, like, why am I doing this? Who is it going to? All these other things. Because otherwise you will just be taken over by a machine that can do that in 10 minutes.
So that's another really good point, looking at where automation is going, because that's such a true thing. And we were talking to Paul when he was saying that, and my head nearly blew apart when I was listening to some of the AI and automation things I was doing. I'm like, God damn, I wouldn't want to be competing against him. Very, very clever guy. So let's go deeper on that, though, about like the changing environment of where automation is. So when I think about it right now, it's like advertising is definitely one of the industries where automation is coming in. The other one that I think is a huge one is accounting and bookkeeping. Like you definitely wouldn't want to be just doing those servers. You have to evolve into providing strategy. That's what's valuable in what you do.
Yeah, I think that is in nearly like anything that has not menial tasks, but something that you're doing like repetition that is not really like you're not stimulating the creative side of your brain, if you will, once you've up to a point, and then it's just like data entry, anything like that. When all of those things are easy things to be automated, and they're saying that once the ATO has all the connections, they'll just have connections to like your Zero file, your bank accounts, everything, and it'll be like, cool, your BAS will be done. Like you already have been giving, like they already have access, it'll be immediate, as opposed to all these like inputs that an accountant's doing and charging you, $1,000 a month for. It's like, cool, I'd much rather now pay $1,000 a month for strategy on how to make sure I'm doing all these things right before they go in, because then if they're going to be automatically identified, you have no room for error. You want to make sure that all your pre-game is done before you go into it.
Absolutely. I think that's such a cool space, and there's so many awesome things happening there, and there's many, many more to come. I mean, I heard another one about like factories, an automatic factory. Like it's all machined up now with automation as well. We look, driverless cars are coming in like soon. Like there's so many big macro changes coming into the world that are going to affect so many business models, and it's going to be quite easy to get caught out in a broken business model. So if someone's in a business right now and they've been listening to this so far and they're kind of going, okay, well, how do I know if my business model is broken? What are the things you would look for in deciding if it's time to adjust the business model or look to other opportunities?
Well, I think you made a really good point and quite a few points there on that identification. I find normally when you start to see heavy levels of competition, price heating up and things like that, that's generally when you start to see a saturation point. And not saying that a market is then broken, but it's on the way to getting to that point because there's so much more competition, there's so much more happening in that space. If you keep doing what you've always done, it's going to break, right? And people will overtake you, and you'll, as you said, like if you're still putting, white text on a white page now, nothing's going to happen, and you're going to lose all your clients very quickly. So you have to adapt.
So no, I think that's how you get blacklisted on Google these days if you do stuff like that. Yeah. So definitely don't do that.
Don't do that. Yeah, don't listen to that advice. So I think that's some of the biggest things. Just when you see these changes coming, but like I always think that you should be a I think it's the right word, like a purveyor of your industry. You should be in it so deep if you are the person who is like, if you're the like, what's the right word, like the tactician, or like if you've been in the business and you came up with the business and it's your field, you should know it well enough to be able to go, okay, cool. Your finger should be on the pulse and go, things are changing. If your finger's not, then that's probably one of the other points is when it's going to be broken. Is to go, well, how long has your finger been off the pulse, or how long has your foot been off the accelerator? How long has your eyes been off the road? Where are you now? You're in a cornfield, or are you still on the highway? You know, so you want to make sure that, like, do a heat check and with yourself in reality, go, have I been paying attention? And you know, like I don't always like, I do like going to like industry events, but purely just to see what everyone else knows. And it's like, cool, if I know stuff that they don't, and this is an industry event, then it's safe to say my finger is definitely on the pulse. Or if they're just talking about it, things that I've been doing for the last 6 months, I mean, cool, like I'm equally as aware as they are. What else is there that maybe they're missing that I need to think about as well?
Definitely. I think there's a huge point there. One thing I will say, though, is I feel that online businesses are susceptible to experiencing change quicker than offline businesses. So, for instance, if you're a restaurant, how you're experiencing change is going to be, I suspect, slower than how Facebook ads or a digital agency. But I was just going to point that out there. They're not immune. If you look at things like Uber Eats coming through as well, or menu log, depending on where you are in the world or what you do, there's been so many things that are coming through. Now, if you were one of the early adopters on Uber Eats, I suspect you would have done really, really well because there was limited choice, but that is becoming more and more saturated. So you can recognize these changes.
Well, that's where I think it's like, that's why I think no, like almost no one is susceptible now, right? If you think about it, because when you look across the board, like, I mean, there's probably some very rudimental businesses. I'm thinking like hairdressers, bricklayers, plumbers, like something where it's like there's not too much adaptation to change. Yes, there is. I'm probably sure there's going to be a bricklaying machine that can lay 1,000 bricks a second.
I might pull you up on that one. I'll give you an experience or an example is like when I was, once upon a time when I was a plumber, what I went through in that industry was actually the changing from copper pipes to plastic. And I was like, if you didn't change from, putting all the pipes in copper and welding to plastic, you were going to be significantly slower and more expensive. So anyone who failed to make that change would have gone out of business. I don't think anyone in the plumbing world now could be surviving on the cost of copper, the time it takes to weld it together. Like the plastic opportunities in the market are so much quicker and so much more reliable these days. There's one that, you probably weren't aware of. That's an industry secret. But there's many of those ones that come through in these industries now. So even trades aren't immune to this. You have to be willing to adapt and move.
I'm going to broad brushstroke and say every single person, every business has to, right? Like, because in reality, it's this. Like, it's like the restaurants with the Uber Eats, and it's cool now that Uber Eats is there. How many people are taking bookings and orders and letting people order their food through Facebook Messenger? Probably very few, but I think that's definitely going that way. And it's even like my partner's business, Lily, she has a language center. There's now, and none of them have actually been made yet, right? They're all like in Kickstarter or something like that. But there's a device you put in your headphones, and when people speak, it automatically translates for you. And you go, okay, cool. Then you give them back the headphones, you talk to them, automatically translates. So technically, like there could be no need to learn a language. I still think that there will be, because I just think it's more natural in the way that you can do it. But to get by, the lazy person could just utilize that, right? So that's already like disrupting learning a language. So crazy. I feel like it's pretty much everywhere. So, but she's always paying attention. She's always like working on the craft of her school, making sure they're, what they teach is good and better and best. So I think that there's almost like nothing where you can't take your finger off the pulse. So Absolutely. Like every industry you have to be on it and be aware and adapting and changing.
I would agree. So what industries do you think are particularly broken right now? I think there's always going to be phases and like different ones from there. But from your perspective, what are the industries that if you were in, you'd be like, all right, I need to make some changes?
Yeah, I think as you kind of said, like anything to do with the online marketing, I think there's like a couple of big areas that are changing there dramatically. Especially like any social media at the moment with all the things that are adapting. That's definitely a big number one. Number two, and I was told this, I don't know if it's actually coming through or I was told it was going to be coming through, but is like some of the coaching, especially in the business space. I was told about 6 months ago that there's actually going to be coming in in nearly every country, like a global standard of business coaching that you have to be able to like facilitate certain different topics, and you have to be able to have a certain level of awareness of all these different things to be able to coach and give someone advice on their business. Which again, I don't know if was 100% true or not, but things like that, I feel like, when you're dealing with people's businesses as well, and again, this may be maybe right, maybe wrong, but like, why don't you have to be like a financial planner? Why don't you have to be like someone, it's like if they're giving you, like, you literally are giving financial advice, really. At the end of the day, you're giving people, like, if you're actually coaching them, you're telling them to do things for their business that will affect their income in some way, shape, or form. So surely that should be regulated, because, like, I see so many people of someone now doing a Facebook video who worked at a coaching company for 6 months, probably in sales or something, and now suddenly is a business coach who can teach all these different strategies and help people grow their business and readily takes people's money. You're not saying that they didn't learn anything in that 6 months, but I feel like that to be responsible for someone's business, you should have some higher level of understanding than just, yeah.
I'm trying so hard not to laugh here because we see it all too many. It's a very, very common thing. And I completely agree with you. That's definitely one of the spaces that I think he's going to be interrupted in some way, shape, or form. It's a very good one from there. I'm very much of the belief of you that I don't think anyone's immune. I think change is here and only going to be looking at it. So from my perspective, what I'm looking at the moment is just, the more I think about it, the more I come up with, like, how the video industry has changed. It's like you can literally shoot great quality videos with a LED panel and an iPhone now. And it's like, if you were in the video industry once upon a time, to do that, you would have required a full film crew for a day. So anyone in the video industry is very rapidly having to adapt and be stronger at the strategy and the storyboarding and how it's used to create clients or where it's going to be positioned. If you look to content creators these days, like once upon a time, you would make a pilot and try and show it to a network to get on a TV show. These days, you can put that stuff straight on YouTube and collect sponsors and do all the rest. Even now, we have a radio show. Once upon a time, this podcasting thing is our own radio show. Like, all these areas heavily disrupted. The way we recruit staff can be done virtually now. I know people that literally do their recruitment on Facebook. I think you're one of them. Like, we don't even use websites like Seek and things anymore. What's that? Do you remember, like, did you ever get that, like, paper that was, like, where you could buy and sell things? It was, like, the classifieds, but it was called something else.
Oh, yeah.
The Trading Post.
I think it was the Quokka in WA.
There you go. Well, Melbourne, it was the Trading Post, but it's like that's been replaced, well, firstly by Gumtree and now by Facebook.
Marketplace.
So I don't think there's an industry that exists that you can't see how you're going to be disrupted. If someone can tell me one, like even Coca-Cola, right, which you would say is one of the titans, is experience a big health conscious trade, and they're buying up all these other drinks because they're completely aware that drinking Coke is in the decline.
It's
So, even they're evolving as a business. Netflix, the way they're providing content and doing their own shows, like the whole world is moving. And the point I'm really trying to drum home is if the whole world is moving and you are not, that is dangerous. You got to be really, really careful. Now, the other side of things is that if you're in business right now and you're trying to copy business models of what has been, like, you're setting yourself up for absolute tyranny there. And it's like, I love this, like, little fable, if you will. I don't know if it's a true story, but about the turkey, about the roast turkey. So this family has a traditional roast turkey, and every Sunday night they come around and they have the turkey. But what's unusual is that they cut the top of the turkey off. So, and every time it's always been cut off. And the little girl asks her mother, it's like, why do we cut the top of the turkey off? And the mother says, I'm not sure. I'd have to ask your nan. And so she goes to the grandmother or the nan and goes, why do we cut the top of the turkey off? And the nan says, well, at the time we had a really small oven, so I had to cut the top of the turkey off so that it'd fit in. So they thought that they cut the top of the turkey off because it was the tradition or that's the recipe or reality, but, it had nothing to do with it. So there's some very, very kind of things where you look at business models is like, maybe people had small ovens at that time. It doesn't make it the right way to do things today.
Yeah, and that leads into another point I think around where you see people and they go and they're doing funnel hacking, or they see your ads and they copy your ads. And I always tell the people, I'm like, it doesn't actually matter because they have no idea why you're actually doing it. They can copy away till their heart's content, but they actually have no idea why you're doing it. And I think in any service-based business as well, I think one of the big things that's most important and things that people should be harnessing is around developing their own IP, or developing their own processes and systems, their own unique mechanisms. Because when the market level of sophistication goes up, more people are entering it. If you are changing and adjusting what you're doing, you need to be able to have a differentiator, which is where you build your own IP, which is where you develop your own systems and processes around how you do things that can be leveraged for clients and other things down the track. And I think if you don't do that, then that's where, again, if your business model is broken, and you don't have that, it's like then you're up, shit creek without a paddle.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, Kim, I'm coming to the conclusion that every business model, if it's not broken at the moment, will be broken soon. So maybe the question isn't, is your business model broken, but how quickly you need to move in ensuring that it doesn't get to that breaking point like so many have. The Yellow Pages, Kodak, like many titans have fallen by failing to adapt to what's coming, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's so many Blockbuster, all those, and I think it's where you don't. And I'll share one little thing I was found so interesting the other day around Uber, right? So Uber now takes for drivers, they take 30% of their fare that's generated, right? They take 30% of that off the top, and there's a whole other side argument where what we're actually getting charged as a consumer and what the drivers are getting told we're getting charged are actually varying from anywhere from $2 to $5. So that's a whole other legality that I'm not going to touch, because I've sat there with a driver and pulled my thing up, and I'm like, cool, 36. His says 32. It's like, well, who gets the $4? So I'm charged 36.
Me, I get
exactly.
We'll call this a rumor. We're unofficial rumor, but we've heard things in the Uber story.
Yeah, but there's a new one called Ola, right? That's come out, and I've been using that around Perth because they've had a very special deal. But as well, when I first was told about it, they said, "Man, like, do you book Uber a lot?" I'm like, "Yeah, I use it all the time. Like, you should check out Ola." And he said, "Look, like, you can get some real cool discounts and stuff." But he's like, "To be honest, man, like, we get charged 30% on Ola. We get charged. Uber takes 30% on Ola. They take 7.5. So, if it's all the same to you, if you're not really if you ridiculously love Uber, that's cool, but would you mind helping us out?" And I was like, man, of course. Like, if it's the same thing for me and you get that big of a difference, then of course I'm going to book through Ola. So now all I use is Ola, as opposed to Uber, because it's better for those people. And so Ola has exactly the same registration process as Uber. So they automatically can pick up every single Uber driver as now an Ola driver without them having to do any extra work, and they get better pay. So that's something that even Uber, a disruptor of an industry, is getting disrupted upon because they're not paying attention to like the foundation pieces of their business.
Do you know what I'm so impressed by? Ola have found the Achilles heel of Uber. The drivers. It's like, because they couldn't outmarket them. They can't outbrand them. Like, it would have cost them a fortune. To innovate the idea of what they're doing. Like Uber, what they do well. Like, how do you innovate it further? But when you look at it, they've gone, well, actually, the drivers are getting a raw deal if we can get the drivers switching over to us and informing the customers. That's their entry point. So what an effort of identification. That's huge. And I'm not sure Uber have handled their risk in this area too well.
No, and it was funny because one of the guys was telling me he got a comment left after the drive, and they said such an amazing drive, and then like at the end of it, Ola with exclamation points, because obviously he told her to use it, and then he got a call from the Uber head office going, "Excuse me, what is this Ola?" At the end of the message, he's like, "I don't know. I think maybe she was Spanish or something. I'm not sure." So like it's that's hilarious, but it's like it's a big change, and it's like even them, the disruptors of an industry. Like you've got to be able to continually stay abreast of your business and be able to make those changes as they come. It's like, cool, drivers aren't happy with those percentages, drop them back down. Don't steal money from the customer and the driver. Maybe don't do that. That's probably a good idea as well. Just putting that out there, Uber CEO, if you're listening, think about that.
He tunes in regularly. He'll be listening to the show. So let me
Yeah.
ask you this then. Do you see any titans falling anytime soon? Is there any companies or things you're looking at the moment where if they don't fail you to adapt, they're actually going to go down?
Well, I think you kind of mentioned one, which is I definitely think the TV stations, because one of the biggest things that they haven't done is go towards on demand. Where I think if they'd done that, they could have preempted Netflix and all those sorts of things. If they'd gone to on demand, like in Australia, we have Foxtel, and that kind of did it, but they want to charge you these extra prices and only certain things. Versus going, cool, why didn't they just automatically make all the TV short channels like on-demand viewing for them? I understand ratings and things like that too, but if they'd made that shift earlier, it would be big. And I think a lot of them as well. I've only seen a few, not necessarily all of them, but I know there's a few that are making the shift to digital, especially Facebook, a lot better than most. And it's because they're not really sharing a lot of them. So there's one called Perth Now, which is a profile on a website as well, which I think is owned by Nine. But they're going out and like interviewing local businesses, cafes, doing stories on them. Like they did one on a guy that used to work with us, Jared, who owns a cafe, had like the cheapest smashed avocado in Perth. So they did a whole little story on him. Obviously, you know, the
I love
generalized
that
love of
that
the
made
smashed
the
avo.
news. Cheapest smashed
Yeah,
avo. That's made the news. Excellent.
yeah, it's up there, man. It's the only way we can buy houses is if we get cheap smashed avo. So, but they came and did a video feature and they ran it on Perth Now and promoted it and they ran it as a sponsored post. Versus this, I think a lot of the different television networks aren't, you know, kind of seeing where people are and taking advantage of it. Versus before that would be a morning news segment. Now it's like it's an ad they're running on Facebook.
How the world is changing. So even the TV networks, I suspect that'll be probably the next big ones we see. But I'm gonna put like a rumor out there or something I can see happening. I'm gonna say the food market. I reckon we're gonna see some titans in food. I can see there's some big things changing in the world from how we produce food and then what consumers want from quality, like this whole factory farming thing or GMOs or things made in lab. Like we're becoming very consciously aware as a world and trying to get away from a lot of things. I suspect we're going to see. I don't know which one. I'm not going to call it like that, but I suspect we're going to see some food titans fall over the next bit.
I think you've been bribed by Monsanto, man. I think you're one of them. No, I think that's definitely a good point. I think that's very very, very relevant. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know. The same thing. I don't know which one. Obviously, you do because you're part of the Illuminati. But us general folk will have to wait and see and hear it on the interweb somewhere.
Sounds good, man. We'll wrap it up for this episode on there, but it's been good to discuss this one. The summary of it is every business is going to be broken at some point, and the best thing you can do is adapt and start being an industry leader and moving. Be the one that is breaking these industries. Be the one that is introducing new things and being ahead of the curve so that you can take advantage of change instead of being a victim of it, is my final thoughts on that one there. Is there anything you want to add in on that one, Kim?
Well, I think it's like we talked on just the last couple of points is like identify what already is broken and remedy it. So it's like Uber with the drivers or with the bookkeeping and accounting, knowing that all that stuff's going to be automated. Like start early identifying the problems and looking into it and going cool and then make your decision from there about what you do next.
Absolutely. I think that's such a good point as well. So we'll wrap it up on this one. Thank you so much for joining me, Kim. Always good to see you and enjoy your time in Canada from that. Let's call it a day. So thank you for listening, guys. This has been Confessions of a Business Owner. Have a good one.
Bye.